So, at what point do we start to reframe and reshape how we look at booster boxes and how we look at how they typically perform on a new set? So, I'm Walt with Flower City Cards, and today I'm going to be talking about that a little bit. Um, a little bit of a change in scenery here. This is down in the basement. It's where I do all the shipping. I just figured I would make a quick little video before I dive into all the packaging that I have for today. Um, and specifically, I wanted to kind of address, I was doing some research this morning. I was looking into various different things, right? Uh, One of the things that kind of stood out to me at this point was the booster box price for Phantasmal Flames. Now, if you are located in New York State, like I am, there's an 8% tax. If you were to go and buy one of those off of TCG Player, which means that you're looking at about $305 to $310 per booster box with tax. That is pretty wild when you look at where it started on release day. It dropped as low as around $200 to $210. And this is just TCG players, so I understand there were probably people getting it for even cheaper than that. And not only that, but just the sentiment and what people kind of thought about the set as we kind of went through that first week, the first couple weeks. And now, obviously over a month at this point, well over a month, but it's just really interesting to see how effectively the price corrected within only a couple months. And if we know anything, we know that Pokemon has been struggling to get any sort of booster box reprints out to us. Meaningful reprints, right? We have seen like Destined Rivals drop on Pokemon Center. We've seen, at least from what I've heard, we've seen some Surging Sparks drop here and there, but it does not look like, compared back to when we got our Lost Origin Silver Tempest large booster box reprint, we haven't seen anything like that. We just haven't. It's not coming. We don't have any information concrete yet. There's been a lot of swirling about the increased capacity, what that means, a whole bunch of things, right? Everybody's kind of speculating on YouTube and in the hobby and the industry. And, at what point, and this is kind of it was a conversation between me and myself. I'm looking at this and, I came, everything that we've kind of built with the wholesale program and everything, and everything behind me, right? It's just, everything was kind of built in a bear market, right? Starting in 2023, early on in 2023. So like end of 2022, 2023. And I'm used to, booster boxes coming out. Maybe they're 110, 120, right? That was kind of the status quo, right? And it's very, very difficult for me personally, with my experience and what I've been through, to look at a booster box in a set like Phantasmal Flames, which I have already said it. I've said it on prior videos. I've said it to people I communicate with regularly. I truly believe that Charizard SIR artwork is objectively, which, it's subjective, but objectively, I think it's probably the best Charizard artwork we've ever seen printed in the space. And, I think a lot of people would agree with that, and that is subjective. But I think that if we kind of put that to the side, right, this may just be the new status quo. And I hate to say it, and we might see some sort of a correction, but I've already heard numbers for Perfect Order are down across the board from multiple sources, including our own. They're down maybe 10, 20% compared to Phantasmal Flames. And this is a set in Perfect Order that is has even less going for it, less hype. The characters within the set carrying the set are not as strong, not as popular. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I think when Perfect Order hits, I think we're going to see just how resilient the market is, and just how bullish people are on. I'm just specifically talking about the booster boxes and the lack of supply relative to the demand that is out there. And that's important, right? You have to understand that um, the set itself may be weak or perceived to be weak, but if you have 2 million people who want booster box cases and they only print a million, well, guess what? If there's more demand, the price is going to go up over time. We're going to see a flood to the market on release day. It's going to drop naturally, just like Phantasmal Flames did, and then maybe in your 1 to 2 month mark, things are going to go up. Now, that being said, we might see a lower, which I fully expect there to be a lower price out the gate for Perfect Order, at least compared to Mega 01, which was a larger set, and then MEO2 Phantasmal, which had the Charizard carrying it. So those two sets are gonna do better on release day. Just my educated guess at this point, but it's very, very, very difficult for me to say, okay, here's release day. This is now potentially going to be the best price that you're going to find is like on release day, or like a week after release day, or 2 weeks, because that's where it seemed to be for Phantasmal, was like 2 to 4 weeks after release day. Is like, that was the cheapest those booster boxes got. And Phantasmal was not the first time we saw this trend. This has been typical for a lot of sets that we've seen, because we're just not getting resupply. In the past, booster boxes, sets would drop, and then you could go to distribution and you could buy cases at a time. You were seeing people pick up Paradox Rift, Paldea Evolved, like Twilight. You had stuff available forever. Temporal Forces, and so it was never kind of this like race to go pick up as much as you could within a certain time frame, because you knew it was always going to be there. Or at least, when I say always, I mean it was going to be relatively available. And even if it went out of stock at distribution, you could probably go to your, some of your more wholesale-ish type resellers, or even eBay or Football Pete, and you could get things at relatively good prices. But man, now it's a different world. And I understand it looks like Pokemon is doing things to address the supply issue in the background. But once they do that, are they gonna increase the emphasis on booster boxes? Are they gonna increase the emphasis on ancillary products? Are they gonna increase the emphasis on ETBs? Like, nobody knows what the true plan is. And I'm of the opinion that Pokemon is, first off, massive corporation. Decisions are not made by one person in an office in a cube somewhere because they did some analysis. Like, these decisions are made, planned out. They're very methodical. That's how this works, right? Obviously nobody knows unless you're behind the scenes, but there is a plan. And you got to hedge your bets where you think things are going. And I think it's a pretty good assumption to kind of think that we're going to get some more booster boxes at some point. We're going to start to get some reprints, right? You have to assume that, at least at this point. And this is kind of the conversation I have with myself, right? And I'm just trying to provide what my thoughts are, and maybe offer some things to think about for you guys as you kind of move forward and try to navigate this weird time that we're in, because I don't think we're going to be here forever. I really don't. I don't think this is sustainable. I don't know if this is just a ploy, a strategy in order for them to increase the MSRP, right? We're at like 167 right now. Do we go up to 180? And because everything is coming out high, the increase in MSRP doesn't hurt as much. So there's a lot of questions, but I think we really need to ask ourselves, like, is this at least shape of the curve, right? The shape of the trend of the prices of the booster boxes. Is this where we are going? And are we getting away from booster boxes? And are we getting away from large reprints? That is a really good question that I think you all need to kind of ask yourselves, because you got to have some kind of a plan in place, right? When you pick stuff up, eventually, right? If you're like me, eventually all this stuff behind me is going to have its time where it moves, you cash in, you take your profits, and then you move it into something that you think is going to outperform whatever it is, right? And it's at the end of the day, you guys have to make your own decisions. You have to think through this. I'm definitely not telling you what to do, but right now, until we see any major changes, it just seems like this is kind of where we are. And even with a set like Perfect Order, 2 to 4 weeks after release may be your best time to pick it up if you're getting it on the secondary market, right? I think we're probably going to see cases dip maybe to 11, 1,200 bucks is my guess. Booster boxes, loose booster boxes, maybe 180, 190 for like a day or two. And then I think it's just going to start to correct. And I think people are going to say, I don't really need to sell this stuff because they're not coming out with any more. We've already heard a reduction of numbers. We've already seen it ourselves. It's it's going to be interesting. So I just moving forward, guys. Think about think about you know number one, your risk tolerance. Um, Number two, if you need to get rid of the stuff pretty quickly, do you have channels to do that? Right? You want to be able to pull the trigger overnight if you can. So making sure you have a good customer base underneath you and reliable people that you can sell to, you know, are kind of at your disposal. It's all a function of isolating yourself financially, uh, in your personal finances from this stuff, so that you can go and kind of make some of these plays if you think this is the best move, right? If you think buying a booster box case or a couple or whatever 2 to 4 weeks after release is something that works for you because you believe in it and you believe that there's some money to be made. So I just wanted to have a conversation today. Again, a little bit of a different environment here where I'm filming. The last the last one was in my car, which was just completely impromptu. And then today I'm getting ready to kind of package some orders in front of me here. Everything's a freaking mess, but I figured I would, before doing that and jumping into that and getting orders out the door, just kind of provide my thoughts on everything based on kind of the shocking. And I don't look at prices every day. It's Saturday morning. You kind of go through numbers, order placements, messages, all that stuff, and I just happened to be kind of browsing, and it definitely took me by surprise. I did not realize, like, the last time I looked at Phantasmal, I think it might have been 225 to like 240 at the top. So seeing that today, and I'm not trying to pump up Phantasmal by any means, but I'm trying to use Phantasmal as an example of what we could see as the status quo into the future. And I myself am struggling with that. As somebody who came from a bear market, right, started in the bear market, I know a lot of people watching this may be new. They may not understand that. They may have never had a taste of that. I think we will see that in the next, I don't know, maybe 2 to 5 years, 1 to 5 years. Who knows? Nobody has a crystal ball, but we could be getting back to that. So, I would love to get back to that, because then I can actually accumulate more. You're pretty much unable to accumulate anything in this kind of market unless you have the capital and the funds, without being irresponsible, right? We all have budgets, we all have risk tolerances, and we all have a certain amount of capital we can deploy without. In my opinion, you shouldn't be leveraging things. You shouldn't be putting this stuff on a credit card. You shouldn't be trying to quick flip with credit, with leverage. I just don't. I don't think that's a great organic way to do things. Try to get yourself separated and snowball, and get to a point where you're operating what you're doing on the side with your own bucket of money, and it's completely isolated from your personal funds. So there's a little bit of tangent there, but at the end of the day, I wanted to make this for you guys and take a little bit of time this morning now that I had some time away from work and give my thoughts on where we're going potentially as the new status quo for booster boxes. And I know it's been this way for a little while, but it's going to be interesting to see where we go from here. So again, as always, if you guys appreciate this content, please leave a like. Feel free to comment below. Like, let me know out of the new set coming up, Perfect Order, which card do you think is going to be the chase? Right? Give me a comment below. Helps the algorithm. Give me a follow if you could. I really appreciate it. And I think for the next video, I've been trying to do better about writing down content ideas. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to, I used to do like and you can actually go to the channel and kind of see where I cover a lot of the numbers, but I used to do almost like a little like 10x booster pack investment thing for myself back when I didn't have a lot of the liquidity or the capability to buy more product. I was just picking up like 10 booster packs of every set back from like Sun and Moon base up to at that point where I was doing that in Sword and Shield era and just kind of tracking things as they went because loose packs at the end of the day are kind of the best unit or purest form of like understanding what a set's doing because that's like kind of what the rip and shippers do. That's a really good way to gauge like volume and how things are moving. So if the loose packs are moving, that was really a good gauge to kind of figure out like how well the set was doing. So I think what I'm going to do for the next video is I think I'm going to go back and revisit some of those prices and kind of give you guys an idea of, okay, if you buy and hold, this is really what you could be seeing based on today's prices for some of these packs. So I think that's going to be really insightful and it's going to be really helpful to kind of see those. And it'll give you guys kind of an insight into, as I kind of talk through each booster pack in each set, kind of what the feel, what the sentiment at the time was, and then we can look at it today. And I think more often than not, you're going to say, holy crap, that thing has gone up quite significantly. So yeah, just a little content idea for next time. But at this point, I'm going to wrap the video up. Appreciate you guys for listening. And as always, see you guys next time. See ya.